Hi everyone, I'm Lisa from Down to Earth, and I'm out here today in the garden, literally in the garden. I'm sitting in this beautiful little cottage garden that I've been transforming. We've been doing some renovations on it this morning, but one of the plants that I love to have in the mix are my daylily, hemerocallis. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about them. And today's video is a two-part video, and it's about chores, doing routine chores in the garden, and then how to make them a little more fun by making a craft out of them. So we're going to actually do our chore first, and then we're going to do our craft. I think as gardeners, we are all pretty we like to be thrifty, and we like to reuse things. So, and of course we like to make our chores a little more fun. I'm all about that. So daylilies, very hardy, one of the hardiest plants, and I absolutely love them because they're easy care, they're not fussy about soil or pH, and light conditions, they're really not fussy. Of course they're going to flower better if they're in the sun, but they will also take part shade. So they're a lovely little hardy perennial, and they're very reliable. I think the downfall of them is that daylily, the name really signifies that they only bloom for literally one day, but the blooms do stagger, and they have so many different varieties. They have the early bloomers, and I have one in this garden that will bloom late spring. It's a beautiful yellow flower, and I have some that are still throwing out some flowers right now. And of course they have the Happy Return series, which are yellow and rosy returns. They have a few different colors, and they're rebloomers, and you'll find some other daylilies that are also rebloomers. So that's how you can kind of get around that. And of course they look beautiful with other flowers. They're very easy in combinations. I have them here combined with my coneflower and my liatris, and then also some annual zinnias and such. Of course my Rudbeckia, black-eyed Susans are in the mix. So they're great pollinators and great companion plants. So the one thing that I don't like about them is that they tend to look a little bit messy after they flower. So you'll see some browning and the dead stalks. It's really not necessary with daylilies to deadhead, but I like a garden looking tidy. I really don't want the brown stalks taking away from the rest of the garden or the pretty foliage, because I really like having this texture late summer and fall in the garden, and it will turn yellow in the fall, which is really pretty. So I don't like to cut down the whole plant. I know people that do when they're done flowering, and the greens will freshly pop right back up. They'll just shear it right to the ground. But what I like to do is I like to clean out the stalks and a little bit of the brown, just to make it look a little more attractive. So today for our craft, we're going to do our chore, and we're actually going to save our stalks for a craft. So I'm just going to go through with my pruners here. I've got my trugs. I'm going to keep my stalks in my little trug, and then any debris that I have I'm going to put in my other trug, and I'm going to put that in the compost, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and collect my stalks first, and I'm just cutting them way down inside the plant. So I'm hiding my cuts in here. I can actually on this one see a new little bud forming. So way down in here. And it's okay, even if they're not completely brown, you can still snip them. This one here still got some green. You're not going to hurt the plant. Super hardy, resilient. You'll find if you wait a little bit longer, right now it's getting towards the end of summer, but if I wait a little bit longer, some of these will just pull right out without clipping. You can just wiggle them and they'll break right off at the base. All right, so I think I've clipped all of my stalks. So now what I do is it's got some brown on it, and this is pretty typical. It's been extra dry this year. We've had a pretty serious drought, but this is pretty normal on the daylilies. And so what I do is I just go ahead and I kind of comb through them, and I'm grabbing most of the brown. A little bit of green will come off. It's perfectly fine. Like I said, they're very resilient little perennial plants. So I'm just kind of combing through it. There. I see a couple of really nice buds in here. So I'll get a light rebloom. I actually kind of like being out here fussing with the plants a little bit. It's not a very tedious job, but I just like being out here in the garden, feeling productive and being with the plants and enjoying my garden. So I feel like it's kind of therapeutic too. What's funny to me is because I like to plant everything so close, you know, I really love a cottage garden and I like it full. Some of these, like the coneflower, just reseeded themselves here, and I like it a little more natural. But I feel like it really draws more attention to the things that are flowering now, you know, and then there's some nice foliage in the mix. I've got one stalk that was hiding in here. Okay, so I'm probably going to do a couple more while I'm out here this morning. So I've got my little trug or bucket of my daylily stalks, which I'm going to use for my craft. And then I have my other trug that has the leaves here that I'm going to add to my compost. So I'll be back with you with our gardening craft next. Okay, I'm back and we're going to start doing our craft. We just came out of the garden and we have our harvest, which, believe it or not, are daylily stalks that we've just snipped. And I do think this is so much fun because it's really like a free gift from the garden. And I don't know, I just like the experience of doing a craft too. So I'm a gardener slash crafter, so this is totally my jam here. So I'm outside at my table. I'm still in the garden. I do love doing my crafts outside because, well, for one, I like being outside, but for two, you know, it kind of cuts down on the mess also. So we are going to make a homemade reed diffuser to bring inside and make our houses smell pretty. This is a real easy project, and you can also tweak this to make this your own. Experiment with what you're using for materials and your essential oils. So I'm going to go through the material list first. And of course, the first item are my daylily stalks. I like to leave them long because I am going to cut them down, but it just gives me some options for the lengths that I cut them to. Next, we need our carrier oil. So we are going to be using essential oils, which are very highly concentrated. So you do need a carrier oil to drop them into. And there's several different types of carrier oils that you can use. But for today's purposes, I'm going to use this grapeseed oil. Another good one for this project would be sweet almond oil. But the reason being is this is a lighter carrier oil. So it's actually going to help the fragrance and the oil move up the reeds and fragrance the room easier. So you are looking for a lighter carrier oil. And my essential oils I have here. I've got some different essential oils, and I just want to talk about those for a minute. So I'm probably going to do something lavender. I'm loving the lavender this year. We just did a lavender video. But I love lavender because it's a really nice, calming, and pretty safe de-stressor oil. So I do like that one a lot. And I'm going to mix it. So I have a couple of options here. You don't want to use more than 2 or 3 oils. So combination. I'm going to mix mine with lemon, which is going to be a really nice citrusy and clean scent, and the lavender is very calming. But another option that I have here is I could do lavender and bergamot, which is a mix really to lift the spirits. So it's a completely different blend. It's kind of like a happy little blend. But you could also do something for sleep. So you could do your lavender oil with vetiver, would be a good one to mix it with. But there's so many different combinations, and this really depends on you and what you're looking for and what fragrances you like. I do also have a couple of pre-mixed blends that I like. I'm not going to use them today, but I just wanted to show you. This is called Peace, Love, and Flowers, which is very fitting. And this is a balancing blend here. It has some patchouli in it. The aroma is sweet and floral. And then I have this other pre-mixed here, which is called Cheer Up Buttercup, which is really cute. This has bergamot and orange, different citrus oils in it. So that's your other option if you don't want to mix your own, is to buy a pre-mixed blend. But I really like playing around with these. So I am going to use the lavender and the lemon. Now, some of the oils that I use, they don't have a little dropper spout, so I also have my dropper with me today. And I've got a measuring cup here. Now, if I didn't have my daylily reeds, I would just use skewers. This is pretty common when you're crafting your own diffuser, reed diffuser. So I just wanted to show you those. But we've actually got a free reed alternative, which is pretty great. And then really important to this is our container or our vase. So your best option is something that has a narrow mouth here, and that's going to prevent the fragrance from really evaporating off into the air. So it's going to slow it down a little bit. So you can be creative with this also, but I'm going to make one out of this little vase that I have here. And another option that I found was a little liqueur bottle that was empty, and I recycled it and peeled the label off and washed it really well. So this is for a more petite diffuser here. So I'm probably going to use this. If I did use this, I'd probably want to grab a funnel also, so I wouldn't make as much of a mess. Okay, so we have our materials ready here. So first I'm going to mix my oil. So typically, and you're going to find all kinds of information on this, but I will mix about 10 to 15 drops of my essential oil to 1 ounce of carrier oil. So the amount of carrier oil that you will need in your diffuser here is really going to depend on the size. So I would need much less in this. Typically when you see the diffusers or you buy them at the store, they are about 1/4 or 1/3 full. So I'm going to just start my mix with 1/4 cup of the carrier oil, the grapeseed oil, and that will be 2 ounces of the oil. So if it's 10 to 15 drops per ounce, then I'm going to fall at 20 to 30 drops. So I'm probably going to go with 30 because I want my fragrance a little bit stronger. So open my bottle here. And that's about 1/4 cup. So I'm going to start with my lavender, and like I said, it's 2 ounces, so we're going to do a little on the high end, about 30 drops, and I'll do 15 of the lavender. Okay. Not an exact science, as you can see. And then I'm going to do my lemon, and this is the one that I need the dropper for. So that's about 13, 14, 15 here. Okay. All right, so now I have my clean base. I'm really just gonna stir this up a little bit here. And that's not too bad. I could double this, but that's enough for us to get started here. So I'm gonna see how this works out. I can smell this from here, and it's really lovely. It's a really citrus, clean scent, I would say. So I'll put the rest of my materials aside, and I do have my pruners out here. I honestly carry these just about everywhere I go, including I have a pair in the back of my car. You just never know, right? So for stalks, you're going to want to do at least 6. So I think the more you can have in here, the better. And this is a little bit wider. So for this vase, let's see. I'm going to do, let's try 8 or 9 here. Who would have thought we could reuse these stalks? All right. So I like this. This is really organic looking too, my little bouquet of stalks. And so I'm going to trim the bottoms here so they're all the same. Just giving them a little trim. Okay, so we're not going to leave them this tall. Usually when you see these, the reeds are about double the height of whatever container they are in. So roughly I'm going to clip mine right up here. So I've got this one here that's a little shorter. I'm going to pull this out and swap it out. And the reason being is you do want to flip your reeds or your stalks at least once a week. Flip them upside down. And so I kind of want them all the same height in order to do that. So I'm going to exchange this one for something a little bit taller. Here. And clip the bottom, clip the top here. Okay, so you want them all sitting in the bottom flat here, sitting in the oil. Voila. And I definitely have room for some more. So just so I can get an idea of the height that I'm using, I'm going to grab a couple more. And I took one out of my vase so I can kind of measure it there. Because like I said, we do really want them the same length or height. Right, so here, I'll do a couple more. So I would say for this, I can probably use 12 or 15 reeds, or in this case, stalk. Okay. Here. Love it. Love. So you do want to make sure that they're all submerged down at the base in the oil. So I think I want to do mine a little fuller. So what I'm going to do is just mix up another batch using the 1/4 of a cup of the carrier oil, which is the grapeseed oil, and 30 more drops of this, and I'm going to pour it in here. Okay, so my lemon and my lavender here. Okay, just gonna swirl it around a little and pour that in. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. That seems like a really good amount. So here we have it, my homemade reed diffuser from my home with my lemon and lavender essential oils. And like I said, you're going to want to flip these once a week. Twice a week is fine. If you think of it, just flip them over and it'll give them a little refresh. When the stalks do get fully saturated, you're going to want to swap them out. So you might want to save some of your stalks, or you can also switch over to the skewers if you don't have any of your daylily stalks, or just be creative, you know, with what you're using for materials. So I will say I like to keep this up high. You want to keep this away from kids or pets. So on a high shelf is the safest bet. You just really want to be mindful of that. I do have friends that will use like a little piece of double-sided tape on the bottom just to kind of stick it to the shelf or the table and stabilize it a little bit more. And then the other option, if you're worried about safety or tippage, is you could get a bottle with a cork, and you could just drill some little holes in the cork and then put your skewers or your reeds or your twigs right in the cork to kind of stabilize them, and that way if it tips over, it'll give you a chance to get to your diffuser before it makes a mess. So that's it for today. I really hope that you enjoyed our 2-part video. I had a lot of fun with you, and if you like this video, please like it and subscribe for some more future gardening fun.